Today we're diving into a struggle that millions face, unwanted fat gain after 40. You're eating healthy, staying active, maybe even following a strict plan, but the scale keeps creeping up. Sound familiar? Here's the hard truth. After 40, your body plays by a new set of rules. Hormones shift, recovery slows, muscle mass declines, and your brain, it becomes even more sensitive to stress, cravings, and poor sleep, all of which hijack your metabolism. But here's the good news. You're not broken. Your system just needs a reset. In today's episode, we'll reveal the science behind fat gain after 40, and more importantly, the 20-minute neurometabolic routine that helped 86% of people break through their plateau, reboot their metabolism, and finally feel in control again. If you felt like nothing works anymore, don't give up. Just tune in. This is where neuroscience meets real transformation. Let's dive in. Let me start with the truth. After 40, your body starts to change in ways that can feel confusing, frustrating, even a little unfair. You notice that fat begins to show up in places it never used to. You're eating the same way you did 10 years ago, maybe even working out more carefully than before, and still the weight creeps on. The scale climbs slowly but steadily. Your clothes fit differently. And it's not just physical. It hits your confidence, your energy, and even your identity. Now, I want to be very clear about this. What you're experiencing isn't a failure. It's not because you're lazy or unmotivated or lacking willpower. It's biology. It's the natural physiology of an aging body, but it's also something we now understand better than ever. And that means we can do something about it. On the age of 40, several key systems in your body begin to shift. Your basal metabolic rate, the number of calories your body burns at rest, starts to decline. That's mostly due to a gradual loss of lean muscle tissue, which burns more calories than fat even while you sleep. Your hormonal landscape also changes. For women, perimenopause and menopause lead to a drop in estrogen, which influences where fat is stored, especially around the abdomen. For men, testosterone slowly decreases, which can reduce muscle mass, impair sleep, and subtly encourage fat accumulation. Add to that chronic low-level stress, sleep disruptions, and years of dietary habits that once worked but no longer do, and fat gain isn't just possible, it's predictable. But predictable doesn't mean permanent. The idea that your body is doomed to decline after 40 is a myth, one rooted more in outdated thinking than in current science. And here's the hopeful, powerful truth. Your brain and body remain incredibly adaptable throughout your entire life. That means change is not only possible, it can be lasting. One of the biggest reasons fat gain becomes such a challenge after 40 isn't just about the physical processes. It's about how people respond to those changes. Most people panic. They think they need to double down on workouts, go harder, longer, sweat more. Or they starve themselves thinking that cutting calories aggressively will solve the problem. And in the short term, maybe it works, the number on the scale goes down, but almost inevitably it comes back. Often with interest. Why? Because those methods fight your biology instead of working with it. That's why what we're talking about today matters. When we say that 86% of people were able to reverse fat gain after 40 with a 20-minute daily routine, what we're really saying is this: the body responds best to consistency, to intentionality, and to habits that align with how your systems actually work, not how we wish they did. Let me give you a very basic but powerful example. When you wake up in the morning, your body is at a hormonal turning point. Cortisol levels are elevated. That's normal and healthy. It helps you feel alert and ready for the day. But if your first exposure to light comes from a phone screen or you're indoors under dim lighting, your internal clock doesn't sync properly. This affects everything: your metabolism, your energy, your appetite. You might feel more tired during the day, more hungry in the evening, and your body becomes more likely to store fat. Contrast that with stepping outside for just a few minutes of natural light. It sounds so simple, it's almost laughable, right? But that light tells your brain it's daytime, resets your circadian rhythm, supports hormone balance, and helps regulate your metabolism. That's one example of working with your body instead of against it. Here's another. Many people believe that if they're not sweating profusely and lifting heavy weights, they're not making progress. But after 40, your body is more sensitive to stress, including the physical stress of overtraining. A 20-minute session that includes low-intensity cardio, something like walking, cycling, or even gentle circuit training, keeps you in a fat oxidation zone. That means you're tapping into stored fat for fuel, not just burning through quick sugars and elevating cortisol. The data shows that this kind of low to moderate intensity movement done daily, even just 20 minutes, helps protect your mitochondria, the engines inside your cells that produce energy. Healthy mitochondria are crucial for fat metabolism, energy production, and aging well. In fact, the people in that 86% group who successfully reversed fat gain didn't do it by destroying themselves in the gym. They did it by doing less but better. by showing up every day and aligning their effort with what their biology actually needs. And I know what some of you might be thinking, I'm too busy, 20 minutes won't matter, or I've tried everything before. But what if the reason nothing has worked is because everything you tried was built on intensity, not sustainability? You don't need more effort, you need more consistency. You need to stop playing defense and start working with your body. And let's talk for a moment about muscle. After 40, the average person loses up to 1% of their muscle mass per year. That might not sound like much, but over a decade, it adds up. Less muscle means slower metabolism, lower strength, and more stored fat. But here's the good news. You can build muscle at any age. It doesn't require hours in the gym or heavy equipment. Push-ups, squats, planks, done consistently, stimulate the muscle tissue and help keep your metabolism active even when you're resting. And here's something that might surprise you. When people added just 5 to 10 minutes of mindful breathing or stress reduction to their routine, their fat loss results improved significantly. Why? Because high chronic levels of cortisol, your body's main stress hormone, signal your system to store fat, especially in the abdominal area. 2 minutes of intentional breathing, like the double inhale, slow exhale technique, can drop cortisol levels measurably. When done daily, it rewires your stress response. You become more calm, focused, and metabolically efficient. These aren't hacks or gimmicks. This is physiology. It's the science of how your body responds to inputs over time. The people who made these changes and became part of that 86% didn't just lose fat, they gained energy, confidence, sleep quality and focus, and maybe most importantly, they realized something profound. They're still in control, even after 40, even after years of frustration. Their bodies weren't broken, they were just out of sync. I've seen this work for people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. I've seen people go from exhausted and discouraged to energized and empowered, not through crash diets or punishing routines, but through 20 intentional minutes a day. That's it. It's why platforms like Mindset Motivation are so important, because it's not just about knowing what to do, it's about believing that it's possible. It's about hearing someone say, you're not done, you're just getting started. So here's what I want you to remember. Fat gain after 40 is common, but it's not your destiny. You can rewire your metabolism, you can rebuild muscle, you can restore energy. All it takes is showing up for your body in a way it actually understands. The next 20 minutes of your day could change the next 20 years of your life. Now, let's take this a step further. You've heard me say that fat gain after 40 doesn't have to be permanent. You've heard that your body is still responsive, still trainable, still capable of change. But if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I get that, but what exactly do I do about it? Then this part is for you. Because the truth is, knowing why something is happening isn't enough. We need to talk about the how. And this is where things get exciting. You don't need hours in the gym. You don't need to sign up for some extreme boot camp or punish your body into submission. What worked for 86% of people struggling with fat gain over 40 wasn't intensity. It was a consistent, repeatable 20-minute routine. That's it. And this isn't some fluffy, feel-good number made up to sell a product. It's what happens when you align behavior with biology. 20 minutes done consistently becomes a powerful message to your brain and body. That message is, we're shifting direction, we're changing gears, and we're doing it on purpose. Let me break this down into what actually happens during those 20 minutes, not in abstract theory, but in real physical terms inside your body. When you engage in low to moderate intensity movement, like brisk walking, cycling, or even going up and down stairs in your home, you're entering what's called zone 2 cardio. This is a sweet spot. Your heart rate is elevated, but you can still carry on a conversation. You're not gasping for air. You're not in pain, but your body is tapping into fat as a fuel source, not sugar, not glycogen, stored fat. And the longer you stay in that zone, again, even just 20 minutes a day, the better your body gets at using fat efficiently. Most people don't know this, but zone 2 cardio literally trains your cells to become more metabolically flexible. That means your mitochondria, the little engines inside your cells, learn how to switch between fuel sources efficiently. The more flexible they are, the less your body stores excess energy as fat. Now pair that with body weight resistance training and you've got something special. When you do something simple like push-ups, air squats, or planks, you're not just burning calories in that moment. You're sending a signal to your body that says muscle matters, strength matters, maintain this. And in response, your body increases muscle protein synthesis, rebuilding and reinforcing the very tissues that support metabolic health. You see, most people after 40 are unknowingly sending the wrong signals to their body. By staying sedentary, by skipping meals, by avoiding resistance training, they're telling their body, we don't need this muscle anymore. And your body listens. Muscle decreases, metabolism slows, and fat accumulates. But with a 20-minute routine that includes light resistance movements, you flip that signal completely. You tell your body, we're not done, we're rebuilding. And then comes a part that almost everyone overlooks, the nervous system. We live in a culture of chronic stimulation, notifications, deadlines, noise, stress. It never ends. And when your body is constantly in a state of fight or flight, your stress hormone cortisol stays elevated. Over time, this contributes to increased fat storage, particularly in the midsection. It disturbs sleep. It dysregulates appetite. It makes fat loss feel impossible. That's why this 20-minute routine also includes just 2 or 3 minutes of deliberate breath work or focus training. It sounds almost too simple to matter, right? But those minutes can shift your entire day. A technique like the physiological sigh, a double inhale followed by a long exhale, has been shown to lower cortisol rapidly. Your brain interprets that pattern of breath as a signal. We are safe. We are calm. And that lowers the chemical storm that makes fat storage more likely. Now, here's the really important part. These 3 pillars, movement, resistance, and breath, don't need to be perfect. They just need to be present. Done consistently, not once a week, not when it's convenient, but daily. Because the real secret isn't in what the routine is, it's that it becomes automatic. It becomes a habit that lives in your body, not just in your planner. And this is where the 86% number becomes so powerful. These were everyday people, parents, professionals, busy, tired, overwhelmed, but they didn't overhaul their lives. They didn't quit their jobs to spend 3 hours in the gym. They committed to 20 minutes a day. That's it. Some of them walked laps around their block. Others did body weight squats in their living rooms. Some meditated. Others simply closed their eyes and focused on their breath for 2 minutes. And the results were not just about fat loss. Yes, they lost weight. Yes, their clothes fit better. But more importantly, they felt alive again. Their energy returned. Their confidence grew. Their ability to focus improved. And maybe most importantly, they reestablished a relationship with their bodies that wasn't based on punishment it was based on partnership, on listening, on momentum. And here's the kicker. The simplicity of this approach is exactly why it works. When something is easy to start and easy to stick with, it becomes part of your identity. And once you identify as someone who moves daily, who prioritizes strength and breath and focus, it changes how you show up in every part of your life. And that's what we believe in here at Mindset Motivation. We're not interested in shortcuts or gimmicks. We're here to help you build something that lasts, something real, something that becomes you. So let me challenge you. Take 20 minutes tomorrow. Not for perfection, not to burn calories, not to chase a number, but to send a message to your body that you're not done, that this next chapter of your life isn't about decline, it's about activation. It's about showing your biology what's possible when you give it consistent, purposeful input. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not behind. You're 20 minutes away from momentum. Keep showing up. Keep moving forward. The change is already happening. Now, if you've been following the conversation so far, first understanding that fat gain after 40 isn't permanent, then realizing the power of just 20 minutes a day to reset your biology, you're probably already sensing a shift. You're starting to see that you're not stuck, that you're not too late, that your body isn't broken. But this third point we're going to explore may be the most important of all, because it's what separates the people who know what to do from the people who actually get results. And that is this simple truth. Consistency beats intensity every time. Let's take a moment and be brutally honest with ourselves. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that in order to make progress, especially when it comes to fat loss or health, we have to go all in. We think we need to suffer. We think it needs to hurt. Maybe that belief came from a sports coach. Maybe it came from social media. Maybe it came from watching others glorify exhaustion. But it's one of the most damaging myths out there. You hear it all the time. No pain, no gain. Go hard or go home. But I'll tell you something backed by both research and real world experience. The people who go the hardest are usually the ones who burn out the fastest. You see it every January. People sign up for extreme challenges, 60-minute HIIT classes, aggressive calorie cuts, crazy schedules. And for a few days, maybe a few weeks, it works. The scale drops, the endorphins are high. But what happens next is predictable. Injuries creep in, motivation drops, schedules get hectic, and suddenly they're doing nothing. The all or nothing mindset always ends in nothing. Now contrast that with someone who shows up for 20 minutes a day, not with punishment, not with dread, but with purpose. A walk in the morning, a few rounds of body weight movements at lunch, a short breathing session before bed. Nothing heroic, nothing flashy, but they do it every day. That's the person who transforms not just their body, but their identity. Because now, this isn't something they have to do. It's just who they are. The science backs this up, by the way. When you apply consistent, moderate physical stress, especially as you get older, it gives your body time to adapt without overwhelming your nervous system. That adaptation is where the real change happens. Your muscles become more insulin sensitive. Your fat cells become more responsive to mobilization. Your brain starts to associate movement with reward, not punishment. You begin rewiring not just your metabolism, but your motivation. You know what else starts happening? You stop chasing quick fixes. You stop trying to earn your food or punish yourself for rest. Instead, you start trusting your process. And trust is what makes consistency sustainable. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with pushing yourself from time to time. Progress does require effort. But if your routine depends on motivation or willpower or hyped up energy just to begin, you'll never outlast your biology, especially not after 40. What you need is rhythm. What you need is something so doable, so reasonable that you could do it even on your worst day. Because let's be real, life happens. Kids get sick, work gets intense, sleep gets cut short. If your plan only works under ideal conditions, then it's not a real plan. But if your baseline is a 20-minute habit that keeps your body moving, your muscles engaged, and your stress in check, then you're already winning, especially compared to doing nothing at all. I want you to think of your body like a volume knob, not a light switch. You don't need to go from 0 to 100. You just need to turn the dial a little bit every day. Consistent, low friction inputs, those are what create the momentum that leads to long-term results. And let's not forget one crucial piece. Your nervous system craves predictability. It thrives on routines it can rely on. That's why consistent movement and breath work help not just with fat loss, but with anxiety, sleep, and even focus. You're training your body to anticipate wellness, to expect regulation, to shift into parasympathetic states more easily. Think about that for a moment. Most of us live in sympathetic dominance. We're wired and tired. We wake up with cortisol spikes. We go all day juggling deadlines, and by evening we're too drained to think clearly, let alone exercise. Then we try to make up for that fatigue with a beast mode workout on the weekend, and we wonder why we're not seeing results. The nervous system doesn't respond well to chaos. It responds to rhythm, predictable, intentional patterns that tell the brain we're safe, we're active, we're in control. Now, this isn't just theory. I've seen it play out over and over again. People who adopt a moderate daily approach, who remove the decision fatigue by making their 20 minutes non-negotiable, report not just lower body fat, but lower anxiety, more energy, fewer cravings, better sleep. And it makes sense. When you treat your body like a partner instead of an opponent, it starts working with you again. That's why on Mindset Motivation, we emphasize not just the what, but the when, the why, and the how often. Because a perfect plan done inconsistently is worthless. But a good enough plan done daily, that will change your life. And I want to address one more thing, because I know some of you are thinking, but I want faster results. I get it. We all want progress now. But you have to ask yourself, do you want temporary change or permanent transformation? Fast results are often fragile. They depend on willpower. They come with a cost, muscle loss, metabolic slowdown, burnout. But slow, steady progress, that's durable. That builds confidence. That builds self-trust. And it rewires the deep, unconscious stories you've been telling yourself for years, the ones that say, I always quit or nothing works for me. Because now you're not chasing a deadline, you're becoming the kind of person who shows up. And that identity shift, that's the real win. Because once you see yourself as someone who moves daily, who takes care of their body, who regulates their stress, you stop relying on external motivation. You stop needing the hype. You simply are the person who does the thing. And that makes everything easier, not because life gets easier, but because you've gotten stronger. So no, you don't need extreme workouts. You don't need a personal trainer shouting at you or a complicated plan with 15 supplements and spreadsheets. You just need 20 minutes a day, something sustainable, something kind to your nervous system, something real. And here's the beauty of it. Even if you miss a day, it doesn't destroy your progress. Why? Because you're not starting over. You've built the habit. The groove is there. Your system remembers. That's the gift of consistency. It creates momentum that carries you even on the days you stumble. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. Not what's the perfect plan, but what can I do consistently even when life gets hard? If the answer is a 20-minute walk, great. If it's a set of push-ups and a few minutes of focused breathing, amazing. If it's stretching while you listen to a podcast, perfect. Because the habit isn't about the movement, it's about the identity. You're not just losing fat, you're reclaiming rhythm. You're restoring your connection to the body that's been trying to help you all along. And that's what this is about. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more time. You don't need perfection. You need consistency. That's the real transformation. All right, let's bring everything home now. You've understood that fat gain after 40 isn't irreversible. You've learned that 20 minutes a day is enough to send a powerful message to your body. And most importantly, you've seen how consistency, not intensity, is what drives real, lasting transformation. But this last point we need to talk about, this might be the one that most people overlook. And yet, it's the one that determines whether the change you've worked for actually sticks. It's this. Long-term change is impossible without reshaping your identity. I know that sounds a bit abstract at first, but let's break it down in real, grounded terms. Every action you take, every choice you make is a vote for the type of person you believe yourself to be. When you choose to move for 20 minutes, when you say no to one more scroll and instead close your eyes for a moment of breath work, when you prioritize sleep instead of staying up late with sugar and screens, what you're really doing isn't just changing a habit. You're casting a vote for a new identity. You're saying, this is who I am now. But here's the challenge. So many of us are still operating from an outdated self-image. Maybe you've been telling yourself for years that you're not the fit type. Maybe you believe that you're someone who always gains weight, who just has bad genetics, or never sticks with anything. As if that's the internal story on repeat, it's going to sabotage you every single time, because we all act in alignment with who we believe we are. That's why diets fail. That's why fitness plans fizzle out. Not because they're flawed in design, but because they never address the deeper programming. You can't just tack on new habits to an old identity and expect them to stick. If deep down you still see yourself as someone who struggles with health or who isn't disciplined, then you will unconsciously find ways to return to that default self-emotion. It's not sabotage, it's just biology trying to stay consistent. So the real work, the real transformation, it's not just in the body, it's in the mind. And it starts by intentionally rewiring the identity you carry. This doesn't mean lying to yourself or pretending. It means noticing the moments when your actions shift and then reinforcing that identity with language, with awareness, with repetition. You didn't go for a walk today. You became someone who moves daily. You didn't eat one healthy meal. You became someone who fuels their body with intention. That language matters because your nervous system listens, your subconscious listens, and the more you anchor your actions to a new identity, the faster that identity becomes real, not in fantasy, but in lived experience. And this is where mindset motivation plays a crucial role, because change isn't just about what you do. It's about what you listen to, what you feed your mind. If you surround yourself with voices that reinforce your limitations, you'll stay limited. But if you saturate your environment with content, with community, with conversations that expand your view of who you can be, your identity starts to shift naturally, without force, without guilt. Think about it like this. Your brain has a filter called the reticular activating system. It decides what information to notice and what to ignore. And once you start identifying as someone who prioritizes health, someone who moves, someone who is taking control of their metabolism, your brain starts scanning for proof of that identity. It notices the improvements. It pays attention to small wins. It starts seeing opportunities instead of excuses. And now you're no longer dragging yourself through the process. You're being pulled by purpose. That's how momentum is created. Not through shame, not through discipline alone, but through alignment. When your thoughts, your behaviors, and your self-image are moving in the same direction. But here's where it gets even more interesting. As your identity changes, your cravings change. Your motivation changes. Your environment starts to support you instead of sabotage you. That morning walk you used to dread, it becomes your anchor. That stretch session you used to skip, it becomes your reset. You start wanting the things that move you forward. And that's when fat loss stops being a goal and starts becoming a side effect of alignment, of rhythm, of identity. You don't need to get motivated every day when the behavior is simply who you are. And that's why I often say, forget the scale, forget the mirror. Look at your habits, look at your choices, because those are the clearest reflection of who you're becoming. Now let's address the resistance that will inevitably show up. The old stories will return. Doubt will creep in. You'll have days when the voice in your head says, this isn't working, or you're just going to slip back again. That voice is not your enemy. It's just the echo of your old identity trying to survive. And the way you respond to that voice, that is the turning point. You don't fight it. You don't try to suppress it. You simply outnumber it. You respond with evidence. I moved today. I breathed with intention. I chose sleep over scrolling. That's how you overwhelm doubt with truth, not by yelling at it, not by pretending it's not there, but by consistently proving it wrong, one aligned action at a time. And soon, those actions build up. They form patterns. The patterns become a new baseline. And eventually, you won't even remember the version of you who thought change wasn't possible. You'll be living it fully. And let's be clear, this isn't just about fat loss. It's about autonomy. It's about taking control of your biology, your habits, your life. Fat loss is just the visible layer. What's really happening is deeper. You're reclaiming agency. You're disrupting years, maybe decades of unconscious programming and replacing it with clarity, with ownership, with presence. And it all starts not with a perfect plan, but with a single decision to behave like the person you want to become before you feel like that person. You move first. You speak it into existence. And then, over time, your body, your brain, your behaviors, they all catch up. There's nothing mystical about it. It's neuroscience. Your brain is plastic, your identity is malleable, and no matter how long you've been stuck, no matter how many times you've tried before, you can change. You are already changing. Every single time you show up, you carve a new groove, a new signal pathway, a new rhythm. It's not about how fast, it's about how deep. And if you're hearing this today, and something inside you is saying, this is what I needed, then I want you to hold on to that. I want you to let that feeling move you, not just today, but tomorrow and the next day. Because those tiny moments of alignment, they're building something bigger than you can see right now. So forget perfection, forget timelines, forget the old labels you've been carrying. Instead, step into the version of you that already exists beneath the noise, the one who doesn't chase fat loss, but lives in alignment, the one who doesn't need permission to begin again, the one who is already becoming, day by day, minute by minute, who they were always capable of being. Start there, start now. That's the only decision that ever really matters.